take us through the statement of today. Over to the Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Mabaso. Greetings to members of the media. May I take this opportunity to convey our heartfelt gratitude and welcome all members of the media who have joined us this morning, those who are physically here with us, and those who are connecting via our social media platforms. We also welcome the millions of viewers and listeners from here in KwaZulu-Natal and the rest of our country who are also with us through the broadcast being carried by various media. This briefing follows the ordinary sitting of KwaZulu-Natal Executive Council, which was held yesterday on Wednesday, 18 May 2022. The Executive Council meeting was held in the midst of a number of developments in the province, chief amongst which is the effort to recover and rebuild from devastation caused by the floods over a month ago. Among others, EXCO reflected on a number of issues, including the following. The Executive Council has joined millions of South Africans in mourning following the passing of legendary gospel icon Deborah Fraser and Inkosi Khumalo of Amajuba district. Their passing will without doubt leave a big hole in the hearts of many of us. Deborah Fraser nourished our souls through her music. She was a versatile patriot, a believer in the ideals of a united South Africa. Hence, through her music, she brought diverse people together. Inkosi Bantu Khumalo was a glue that held the community together and a peace ambassador. He was always collaborating and working with government to ensure development in the Amajuba district. He played a great role in the district house of Amajuba. The Department of Sports, Art and Culture has been assigned to work and support the Fraser family and give her a fitting send-off. The Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs worked with the family of the late Inkosi Khumalo to ensure that he was given a proper send-off. On behalf of the people of KwaZulu-Natal, we pay our sincere condolences to the Fraser family and that of Inkosi Khumalo and Isizwe Sakwa Khumalo. May their souls rest in peace. The Executive Council, on behalf of the people of KwaZulu-Natal, congratulate the Richards Bay FC, the Natal Rich Boys, on gaining promotion to the elite DStv Premiership. The EXCO extended best wishes to the player, the management, and staff for this monumental achievement and shining the bright spotlight on the talent that exists in our province. The achievement will inspire many of our young people and add more value to our sports tourism, social cohesion, and economic upliftment of our province. We have no doubt that the Richards Bay FC will represent the KwaZulu-Natal well and forever remain in the PSL, and we are sure that they will not sell their status this time. With regard to Africa Day celebration, the Executive Council noted and approved plans to host the 2022 Africa Day event on the 25th of May to be held in partnership with University of KwaZulu-Natal. This will mark the 59th anniversary since the formation of the Organization of African Unity, which later became African Union. Ladies and gentlemen, with regard to the forecast on weather for this coming weekend, the provincial government has received a severe weather warning notice from the South African weather services for the coming weekend. We are advised that if KwaZulu-Natal receive an additional 20 milliliters of rain, there is a potential of flooding as the ground may still be saturated following the recent heavy rains. We have been advised to expect snowfall and freezing temperatures. The EXCO will, through the Department of Culture under MEC Sipho Muga, put all our disaster team on full alert. We urge our fellow citizens to be aware, especially those who may be in flood-prone areas. Everyone must exercise extreme caution, and we appeal to the people to be careful as they use self-heating mechanisms, including gas heaters and others. We have barely recovered from the recent floods, and many areas and infrastructure are still vulnerable, and we need to do everything possible to avoid disasters in rapid succession. With regard to the update on flood, it has been a month since the devastating flood occurred on the 11th of April 2020. As the province, we are still undergoing unimaginable pain. The floods have unleashed havoc in our province and left an unthinkable path of destruction. We continue to express our condolences to the families, friends, and relatives who have lost loved ones. We have never demobilized the searches for those who are still missing. Our local search and rescue work continues as we remain hopeful that this will afford everyone final closure. In this presentation, we will cover the following areas: the substantial damage caused by the floods, the government response, the strategic and long-term rebuilding and reconstruction. Current indications are that the floods have affected a total of 85,280 people. A total of 448 fatalities are, in terms of the final report, confirmed to be the baseline official figure confirming the deceased. A total of 88 people are still reported missing, with 6,895 being homeless and 50 injured. A total of 27,069 houses were affected, with 8,584 houses totally destroyed and 13,536 partially destroyed. Indeed, these floods are the worst in the history in history and have unleashed the biggest humanitarian crisis and damage. The cost of the flood damage of the public infrastructure is officially estimated at 25 billion, with losses mainly in road, rail and bridges, housing, water, sanitation, electricity, agriculture, manufacturing. We still have the water service system still out of operation in areas such as Tongat, as they were seriously compromised by the floods. The province has been able to process burial support to all the deceased through the support of the Motsepe Foundation and AFBO. We are grateful and thankful to the work they are doing. We have one body of an undocumented Mozambican national that is uncollected. We are in touch with the family through the Mozambique Embassy as part of our daily liaison with close contact. With regard to government response, it is important that we we care that unfortunate selected or selective amnesia, especially among those who like to feast on the tragedy and suffering of our fellow citizens. From the day the floods occurred, government has been on the front line, activating and physically supporting our disaster operations. National government, led by His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa, has been with us since those difficult days. We were the first to evacuate school children, residents whose homes were flooded, bereaved families, and to clear roads and ensure that all areas were accessible. Even as our resources were overstretched, we ensured speedy intervention, seeing to it that no one is left behind in their hour of greatest need. We coordinated with other provinces, civil society, and NGOs to respond to this disaster. We continue to do so even today as we lead the implementation of our Phase 3 response plan. With regard to humanitarian relief, we have ensured that all affected persons are safe and that their basic needs are met daily. Currently, the province has 91 places that are being used as shelters. This is now down from 102, as some have been combined. And these are housing 7,297 people. The government and social partners provide meal, food packs, blanket, hygiene, and dignity pads, and psychosocial support services, among others. With regard to stabilization and recovery, as well as rehousing people and restoration of services, we have restored most of the services, especially electricity and water, and we are attending to the areas still experiencing challenges, especially due to the fact that the new infrastructure needs to be installed. We want to assure all affected that we are working hard to return normality in all water and sanitation systems. In the interim, we've increased the use of water tankers and are exploring all creative measures to restore all regular and normal supplies. We must, however, acknowledge, unfortunately, that water supply in many areas of our province have been affected by floods, including the quality of water in some areas. In this regard, there will be ongoing water restriction in all municipalities in varying quantities until we are back to normal. The areas most affected by poor river quality include amanzi mnyama, umbilo, umkhumbane, umngeni, umlasi, umhlatuzana, ispingo, and itoti. With regard to electricity, in eThekwini alone, we had in excess of 100 power stations that were severely affected by the floods, leaving many parts of the city in darkness. To date, all high voltages substations have been restored, with some work still in progress on low and medium voltage faults. Power supply interruptions are being experienced in areas such as Gwandengezi, Zwelibovu, and Maran Ridge almost daily. This is caused by an electricity overload. The city has advised that work at Maran Ridge substation to resolve this problem is expected to be completed in the next 2 weeks. With regard to water, There is substantial progress in restoring water supply in areas where infrastructure was severely damaged. In eThekwini, where major disruption occurred, water supply has improved by 75 to 80% in most areas. There is still a challenge in some areas. As stated, the floods severely damaged the water treatment plant in Otongat. Major repair in this area are expected to take a few months and at an estimated cost of about 30 million, according to the eThekwini Metro engineers. As an interim solution, the municipality has intensified the provision of additional water tankers, and more static tanks will be added. There are also boreholes and package plants provided by NGOs, and we want to appreciate that. The eThekwini municipality is creatively reconfiguring the existing system and has constructed the emergency pipeline from Nyaninga Reservoir to Tongat South Reservoir, which is the area that accommodates Buffalo's Day. The necessary tie-in will be completed on the 16th of May. Access to piped water supply is expected to be available from today, the 19th of May, for the following areas: Tongat South Reservoir, Watsinia, the Bavaldea, the Gandhinaka, Chamfords Hill, part of Tongat Central, which is the Tongat Central Business District. The restoration of supply to Otongati South areas was achieved due to the design nature of reticulation system and the proximity of available existing water point. The municipality further advises that supply to Otongati South areas will be intermittent, as it must ration and be rationalized with other areas. And the following areas are feeding from Nyaninga, which is King Shaka, Dube Trade Port, AgriZone, Mount Moreland, and Shortlands. So there will be rotation in some of these areas. The municipality continue its plans to augment supply to more areas fed from the damaged Tongat water treatment works, and will be reporting in due course on update for the Hambanati, Emona, Mamba Ridge, and surrounding areas. Supply is still a challenge in the lower Molweni areas and Wushwini due to road and water infrastructure being destroyed. About 188 water tanks within eThekwini have been deployed as an interim measure to supply water in all affected areas. We have also started to put static tanks and drill boreholes in some areas. Supply to Ntuzuma and surrounding areas is still a challenge as well. The municipality continues to balance supply in these areas by rationing. Major pipeline replacement work that will secure supply is due for completion by week ending on the 20th of May. This will cover Inanda, Newtown B, Inanda, Newtown C, Nhlongwana, Ezimangweni, and Best. The plan for the permanent reconstruction of the Otongati water treatment works, which is a permanent solution to the current challenge, is well underway. The municipality will give continuous updates in this regard. With regard to the implementation of immediate response by human settlement, service providers have been appointed for the construction of 1,810 temporary residential units across the province. To date, 77 of these are complete, and the progress is slowed by the suitability of land, as rebuilding cannot take place in some areas where communities were flooded. Units are being constructed in Molweni, Kwamakhuta, and Inanda. These will soon be handed over to beneficiaries. In terms of land identification purposes, out of 64 mass care centers, 21 have been linked with a possible land parcels. At least 25 land parcels from the National Department of Public Works and the Provincial Departments of Public Works have been identified, totaling to 49 hectares. Detailed assessment currently is being undertaken on the 25 recommended properties. The South African National Defence Force is implementing Bailey bridges, while the Department of Transport in KwaZulu-Natal is leading a massive project called Valama Potholes, Fixing Potholes, which is working, the department is working with municipalities. While 630 schools were damaged, they have all been opened and are functioning following the floods, with temporal mobile classes having been provided. With regard to rehabilitation and reconstruction, building back better is the main focus of the province. Our province suffered 3 major setbacks within a short space of time. The first was COVID-19. The second was social unrest of July 2021, and then the April 2022 floods. According to the survey by the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition, at least 826 companies were affected, and the cost of the damages to companies is estimated at 7 billion. Recently, President Cyril Ramaphosa, accompanied by key ministers, visited the province to engage with business on government's response to disaster. The top 3 districts that had the biggest impact were eThekwini Municipality, with 239 companies responding, accounting for 50.6%, followed by iLembe, with 87 companies accounting for 18.43%, and Ugu district with 45 companies accounting for 11.44%. These floods have impacted on about 31,220 jobs, with eThekwini accounting for 68% of jobs impacted. If we say jobs impacted, we mean that there are people who are unable to go to work now because their companies have not opened as yet. The damage to Toyota has resulted in their temporal closure in the Durban South Basin. An estimated 30,000 employees across the manufacturing industry are out of work currently. This means that employees could be without pay for approximately 3 months. Given the severity of damage at Toyota South Africa, we are, however, very encouraged by the decision and commitment of Toyota globally and other businesses to rebuild and build back better here in KwaZulu-Natal, despite the setbacks and losses to businesses which was caused by the floods. The recovery priorities include working with the private sector to ensure disaster-proof rebuilding processes, With regard to port operations, these are being improved, but are being affected by the rest of the network in the province. Currently, 2 lanes on Bayhead Road are open and operational, while the repairs to the Bayhead Road is being carried out. Unfortunately, rail in the port area is damaged and will be back in operation in July 2022. There is consideration to open a new road along the railway line to ease the movement of cargo. Electricity and water challenges around the port are affecting many companies, and until there is progress on the road feeding into M7, we will be affected by costly delays in the port of Durban. We are, however, pleased to note that operations at King Shaka International Airport are back to full normal, with the Dube Trade Port providing water tankering by using its own equipment and sourcing water from their own dams. As a result, the much publicized water crisis at King Shaka International Airport, a strategic location especially for tourism sector, has now thankfully been resolved. With regard to the support to small businesses, we are also implementing measures to assist spaza shops in townships and implementing tourism sector interventions and SMMEs relief for infrastructure. For this purpose, the Department of Economic Development, Tourism and Environmental Affairs is repurposing 67.5 million toward the SMMEs and Co-op Relief Fund as approved by the Provincial Treasury. The fund will prioritize township and rural businesses and informal traders in eThekwini, iLembe, King Cetshwayo and Ugu district. In this regard, the Executive Council has approved the application to National Treasury for the release of 1 billion funding for immediate needs while awaiting the appropriation of the rest of the disaster fund. This is to cover the shelter support, human settlement interventions, water and sanitation interventions, road and relief. With regard to the disaster teams, we wish to thank all our patriotic disaster teams from across the provinces of South Africa, led by their premiers. We are grateful for your heroic acts of selflessness and sacrifice to support us in our greatest hour of difficulty and need. The South African Police Service, the military, expanded public works program participants, municipal employees continues to assist us as we work to rebuild, clean up, and continue search and rescue operations. The rebuilding effort will not be a government project alone, but the collective response led by all sectors under the leadership of our caring government. It is going to be a long road to full recovery, yet those with ears can hear the thankful appreciation of millions, businesses, communities, and many institutions who have felt government's consoling and reassuring presence during this time. It will be recalled that the province opened a dedicated bank account for donations under the account with Absa Bank, and the account is 410383 1039. As at the 15th May 2022, the account had 125,000. Of this amount, 100,000 is specifically earmarked for the health department. The balance of 25,000 will be used toward the rebuilding. The bulk of donor funding has been sent directly to NGOs and can be accounted for by the NGOs. The Human Rights Commission and the United Nations Coordinating Office in South Africa will work with NGOs to ensure that citizens receive a report on who did what with donations earmarked for the people affected by floods in KwaZulu-Natal. There were many announcements made by various corporate companies and NGOs, but all of us will need to account and be transparent about what we did and how the money earmarked for flood victims in KwaZulu-Natal was spent, who was assisted, where, and what intervention. In closing, work continues for the restoration of what has been destroyed and to heal and rebuild together. We extend our gratitude to all the individuals, public and private institutions, businesses, the faith-based community, traditional leaders, NGOs, donors, as well as local and international diplomats who have assisted our province in its time of need. The initial application has been submitted to national government to assess the first tranche of funding. As this happened, work to restore services has continued by various institutions from their baseline budget. The situation has improved and is better than on that fateful day of the 11th April because of the work led by this government. I wish to reiterate once again that, as we said when this disaster tested us, this is a time to pull together and address the challenges in the interest of all those affected by the flood. Now is not a time for political grandstanding and divisiveness. We will weather this storm not by taking advantage of the plight of our vulnerable communities or by oversimplifying a difficult challenge which we must overcome. Neither should we allow laziness and incompetency to prolong the suffering of our citizens. We will not allow failures and incompetency to be explained, but we will not use lies to achieve political capital at the expense of the people. When we pull together, we will weather any storm. We will let us harness this great spirit of collaboration and work together to rebuild better our beautiful province of KwaZulu-Natal to its glory for the benefit of all her people. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Premier, for the comprehensive briefing, which in my view covers almost every angle. Let us open the opportunity to the colleagues for the questions. We'll, for a change, start with the colleagues that are online. I don't know, is there anybody online who has asked any question? Yeah, you can press the microphone and take the question. Okay. Okay, why do you speak? Okay, go ahead.
All right, so we have a question from Mary Pataya from Business Day. She'd like to know, will the Premier appeal to the national government for any short-term funding or support for the unemployed, or to actually assist businesses that have been affected by the flood? will some receive monetary compensation? And then secondly, how long are displaced families expected to remain in shelters? And then lastly, we have one from the Citizen newspaper from Faisal, and his is quite generic. Just like to know, will 40,000 people across the province who are still waiting for government assistance after the floods, and how will they be assisted?
40,000. Okay. Thank you very much. Premier, if you want to start with those online from Mary, Ketu, and Faisal.
Maybe if we can repeat the last one, Faisal.
The last one is asking about the 40,000 people that are said to be homeless and the support they will receive as when they are going to move into houses.
Well, starting with this question of the people who are homeless, all of them, as we have said, they are in 91 shelters currently. All of them will be provided with houses. I wouldn't want to confirm the number that there are 40,000 as he's saying, but all of those who are in shelters will be provided with support. And I think that takes us to the question by Katie, whether they will be receiving houses. Yes, they will receive houses in a form of temporary residential units. These temporary residential units are of a quality, and they are guaranteed, I think, for 3 to 5 years, but they will be integrated in the forthcoming projects of housing so that they get permanent houses. I think the question by Mary Papa is very important. We have been engaged already by the private sector as well as the unions on how to deal with the situation. The current approach maybe will be to look firstly on tests to keep employees at least having some little income up until they are back at work. Companies have to also be supported, but the first point for companies will be their insurances. And then I think there are grants also we announced, or support we announced, that comes from the Department of Trade nationally. And the department is offering the support in terms of restoration or rebuilding, and as well as expansion. So that was announced, and we can provide that support. That is what we are doing with regard to the business community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Premier, let's take the colleagues inside the house. Any question? I think in that order, or maybe in Kalina and then Namandu Manyanga. Starting with you.
My name is Lucy from SABC. My name is Lucy from SABC. Because it seems as if the province of KwaZulu-Natal is very prone to natural
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's from ENCA. Premier, you've already touched a bit on the allocation of funds for those people that were affected by the floods. But I would just like clarity on exactly how will you monitor how these funds are being allocated for each and every person that was affected, because there's been some reports about funding being stolen and all those things. So I'd like to get clarity on that. And also on Tuesday, I had an interview with the MEC for Human Settlements in regards to those people that are still living in community halls. I think that's been the focus today. We spoke to various people who are located there, and they are saying that they haven't been told on when they'll be moved. They are concerned about health issues since there are growing numbers of COVID-19, and they are asking when exactly will they be moved. So basically, a time frame on that. The MEC did say that in 10 days' time they will